All right, so Brian wants to know, what do you think about moving to a music town such as Nashville or LA to kickstart a production career or level up an existing one? And I can't really answer that because I've lived in Orlando since the day I was born. But Chris here lives in Nashville and he lived in LA for 4 years. We grew up together and he decided to make that leap. So I'm going to let him answer this one.
I moved to LA right out of college. And I was there for 4 years. I think for me, it was the thing that got me to start doing it and kind of get in the circuit of writing, producing demos, getting those demos to artists. And that's something that I wanted to do. That's something I wanted to be in. And I didn't have that experience in Orlando. It was more of learning the physical skill part of it. But getting out to LA and doing it there was more of learning the process of the whole thing, of the business a little bit. Even though I didn't feel like I fit well in Los Angeles and it didn't work out for me, obviously, ultimately there, it was what helped me learn and gave me the experience and confidence that I needed, that when I moved here, I felt like I was able to really hit the ground running. I was able to become a full-time producer here pretty quickly because I had gotten a lot of that learning process out of the way in Los Angeles.
And what would you say, now that you've lived in both for a similar amount of time, is there anything that sticks out to you as the biggest difference or the biggest reason that you like Nashville more or that you feel like you're clicking more in Nashville? By the way, if you don't know, you're new here, my name is Adam Sliger. I'm a music producer, and every week I make a new video about music production. So if that's something you're into, then go ahead and subscribe. I make new videos every week. Chris here, he's a producer, songwriter. If you need a song produced or written, he might be the guy. I'll put his Instagram,
sure.
Instagram. I'll put his Instagram in the description. Hit him up, give him a follow. You'll learn something. You'll hear some cool songs. And thank you.
Nashville there's a lot of differences. There's differences creatively and there's differences functionally. I think functionally, Nashville's just a lot more structured in my experience. My work here has been more structured. Rights here start earlier, they end earlier. They're on more of a schedule basis. In LA, it was a little more elastic,
a little more 3 a.m. Uber Eats vibes.
It's kind of when it strikes, right? And here it's a little more schedule based. People are booked really tight here, from what I see.
What you're going to be doing next week.
Definitely. I mean, we started booking out here pretty quickly and pretty far. And you got to kind of put the brakes on a little bit, or I've had to, you don't want to book your whole year out because you don't know what opportunities are going to come up. And so I've try to keep a good balance there. You want to know what you're working on in the future. And creatively, people tend to approach the song a little different, I think, because although there are all genres here and all genres in LA as well, the focus genres are a little different. And so I think it kind of affects how that process bleeds over even into the other genres. So you can notice a little bit of a stylistic difference, but it's cool to get in the room with both kinds of people because you get different perspective and different angles on writing. So,
well, I would say as somebody who didn't move to LA or Nashville, even though I almost moved to LA a couple times. That's a story for another video. I will say that there are some pros and cons to not moving that I think I can talk about as someone who's doing music full time in a non-music city. Even though Orlando has a scene and it historically, the whole boy band era came out of there, and there are some studios still. In Orlando and in a non-music city, there is a little bit of an opportunity to become the guy around town. If someone needs custom music, I feel like there's me and a few other people, and that's kind of it. So that's in a way a perk. You can be the big fish in a small pond, and that doesn't suck. I will say that the biggest downside is just the infrastructure doesn't really exist to follow like a path. So here you can say, all right, I can move to Nashville, I can get in rooms, I can meet publishers, I can start trying to book sessions, right? In a non-music town, you're going to have to make a lot of that stuff happen on your own. Like you could take a meeting with a music industry person next week if you wanted to, because they're here. In Orlando, I can't just be like, I want to start trying to pitch this thing, so let me try to set up some meetings and get this in front of people. Like, it just doesn't exist.
The industry thing is certainly different. We were talking earlier, there's a lot of creatives in every part of the country. Like, all over, there's a lot of creatives. There's a lot of artists to work with. We work with artists here that are from everywhere, a lot from Orlando, we end up seeing a lot of folks from there coming up here to work. There are creatives everywhere to work with, but yeah, the business is certainly kind of centralized in these couple hubs. I'll say my experience there on that side was different in LA versus here as well, because the business and the creative, in my experience in LA, were not super intertwined, whereas here they are so close. Like you are the proximity between the two is just really close. And I think part of that has to do with, like, if you're a writer, if you're a pure writer, obviously I'm in this room every day. But if you're a pure writer, you're bouncing around to all the different publishers to their writing rooms. So like you're just like, you're in their office basically every day, like the creatives in suits are right there in town. But
in Orlando, it's like, let me see if I can email Jimmy. Is that his email address still? Ooh.
When I moved here, one of the biggest changes was starting to meet those kinds of people and go get coffee, and not just with the business folks, but also with the creatives. Like going out and getting a coffee and meeting, kind of like just connecting personally was a really big thing that folks urged us to do and gave us the opportunity to do. And that was a different experience. In LA, there wasn't that kind of network sort of thing. Nashville has that kind of small town feel where it's like, oh, well, you should know so-and-so, you should know so-and-so. Like when you first get here, at least for us, it felt like everyone was like, oh, well, you should meet this next person, you should meet this next person. And that made it really welcoming in town and really easy to kind of just get in and be like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this thing that y'all are doing. And people are happy to help in my experience. So.
All right. So Vinyl's Dead wants to know what we think young producers that are trying to break out into the scene should focus on. Should we be applying to studio jobs, putting out resumes, or try to build a brand through social media while you're filling out your portfolio? Or look into people who are working on stuff you like, send out DMs, and just hope for the best. And that is an awesome question. I think it's one that a lot of people have, because when you're developing your skills as a producer, it is hard to get those first clients or artists, and it's also hard to find a job. I will say getting a job at a studio is kind of becoming less and less of a thing. I knew more people that worked at one studio years ago. Now I have a handful of friends that do that, but most people are working room to room, or they're producing out of their own homes or whatever it is. I mean, I had a commercial studio for 10 years and I don't anymore, because that part of the business is not what it used to be. You used to be able to have Pro Tools and a computer that could record audio, and that was kind of unique. The way like a photographer had the camera. Now it's like, okay, you can't make a living off of having the capability of recording audio, because that's not like special anymore. So all that to say, applying for studio jobs, that is a ladder that I'm not saying it's too late to start climbing. Do not take it as that. If that's what you want to do, you can do it. I have buddies who started applying for studio jobs 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they're doing great work. They're doing awesome jobs. But that ladder is not as wide as it used to be. So if your goal is to just make it full-time as a musician, producer, engineer, whatever it is, yes, you should send resumes out to studios. I think that's a good idea. While you're doing that, you should be building your own brand and building a portfolio. Really, yes to everything. DMing people who do work you like and hoping that they'll give you opportunities. Those are kind of those miracle stories, the once in a lifetime type of thing. I think most producers are very worried about other producers and trying to get other producers to get them work. And, oh, can you cut me in on this? you should be DMing artists you like. Hey, I love your music. Can I send you some things? You should be finding people that are singing in your community. Hey, you have a great voice. Can we work together on some music? Those are the people that are going to hire you because they need your product. Other producers are not. Other producers will sometimes hire me for work, but 99.9% of my work comes from artists, singers, brands, event companies, people who need music made. Other producers don't always need music made because they're the one making it. So I would say shift your focus a little. Try to not find people that have what you want and ask them to give you a slice of it. Try to find people that need what you make and make it for them.
I think one thing that I want people to see, from me or view me as is bringing value to a room. Like anytime I'm, or to a project or whatever, anytime I'm involved in a project, like I want to make sure I'm adding value and that I'm not a redundant person. And I think that writers feel that way a lot too here. People kind of tend to fall into roles as like what kind of writer they are, what they bring to a room. And that, I know that might sound like limiting, like, oh, you're this person.
You're the lyric dude.
You're the melody, you're lyric, or whatever.
You're the track guy.
That's like super loose and all, like not a hard and fast thing by any means, but it does help people connect you because they know where to put you. Like they know what you do and they know what to put you up for. Like what sessions to suggest you for, what artists to suggest that you work with, just knowing like what your role like typically is in the room or what you're great at adding. I mean, that's advice that I've gotten as a producer as well. Just like be clear about what you do. And I think that's helped me like by just being clear about what I do. I think that's gotten me in more situations that I like more and gotten me to be able to do more things that I want to do. Rather than being either in the wrong spot or being a redundancy and too many cooks situation.
All right, Joey C wants to know how they can motivate themselves to break down and buy a DAW and get back into producing beats again. They were producing from 16 to 25 and then life got in the way. How do I slowly dip my toes into making music again? DAWs have changed so much since I quit and I'm 39 now. And that is a great question. And DAWs have changed a lot, but ultimately the principles behind them are still the same. I will say this, if you haven't touched music software in a long time, there are going to be ones that you flow with really well. And there are going to be ones that you look at and you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like if I look at Ableton, I'm lost. If I look at Reason, I'm lost. Logic, I understand. Pro Tools, I clicked with immediately. All these have either a free trial or a free version or something. So like Logic, GarageBand is free. Pro Tools First is free. Reaper is free to try and $60 for a license. So try them all. Be experimental. Find what you like about them. Get in a good flow and don't spend a bunch of money on them all and realize, oh, I hate this, but I bought it, right? By the way, little update on my book. I have been working on this planner for quite some time now. If you watch all my videos, you're probably sick of hearing about it. But as always, I am giving away the templates for free right now for this planner. So if you want to get that, click the link in the description. I'm also excited to announce that I finally have a release date. So August 31st, this thing's going to be available.
Let's clap it up.
So set an alarm, set a calendar appointment. August 31st, you'll be able to get it. I'll post about it. I'll shoot you an email. But go get the templates right now for free so you can start using the planner today. I'll shoot you an email. So click the link in the description or in the pinned comment. And let's get back to the questions. Now, on the flip side, if you do end up buying the DAW you like, well, now you've got a little bit of skin in the game. So maybe it'll push you to actually sit down and learn it. But yeah, just find one that you flow with and get in there. I mean, I don't know, you have to love doing it, right? If you want to kick in the pants, like you were saying earlier about people who make music as a hobby is kind of seems rare, but it's like respectable. I think that's kind of
I love that. I mean, there's so many things that I do as a hobby that I enjoy those things a lot. I have no aspirations of doing them professionally. I just like, they just add to my life, and they're things that I love, right? But I'm not gonna make any money on them, but I still enjoy doing them. Doing music professionally can be like a little different for me. It was different for me in terms of like, there are times where it's maybe not like the only thing I want to be doing, or like maybe it's not like they say the whole thing about like you do what you love, you never work a day of your life. Like it's not been like entirely true for like my experience. Of course, do I love doing it? Do I want it more than anything? Of course, but that can be hard when it's like, it's like 1 a.m. and I'm melodizing a vocal. Like that's not really what I want to be doing at that point in time. So it does feel like a little bit of work at times when you're, trying to reach a goal in a profession. I'm not saying like I have a difficult job. I don't have a difficult job. I'm very, very lucky to do this job. Right. But it would be like ridiculous to say like, oh, it's just super easy coasting and we goof off all the time.
Right.
That's not really accurate of my experience.
So if you want to do it because you want to get back into it, yeah, you have no pressure right now. It's low pressure. You can try everything. No one's expecting you to turn in a song or we paid you all this money. So just do it because you love it. Do it because you want to do it. And you'll find your flow. Get whatever free DAW and just pick a tutorial, go in head first and say, I'm not going to stop until I make a drum loop and put down a bass or whatever, figure out something and bounce it out and say, I made a thing. And you'll be hooked again, I think. I feel like that's going to be the case.